I once called speedrunning the most degenerate act man has ever come up with. But the truth is that the reality of my statement depends heavily on the circumstances surrounding the speedrun and the speedrunner. Many might counter my statement by arguing that there are plenty of speedrunners who are gainfully employed, in healthy relationships, and who have achieved a good speedrun life balance. But this video isn't about those people. There have equally been many examples of people or cases where their speedrunning has achieved levels of degeneracy which would truly shock an outside viewer. The Elite.net community hosting speedruns of Goldeneye and Perfect Dark has existed for nearly 20 years, and in that time, we've seen some of the most degenerate things imaginable. Here are the top 5 most stunning instances of degeneracy in Elite history. Elu's G-Day 2015. Having existed since 1998, the Elite has a well-established database of all of the world records achieved throughout its history. It's always fascinating to look back through the annals of time to see how the records on a stage have progressed and evolved over the ages. A cool feature we have on the Elite forum is a header called This Day in Elite History that shows what records have been achieved on the current day in previous years. I remember a conversation I had with longtime Eliter Jimbo at AGDQ 2015, where he noted that out of all the calendar days in the year, a GoldenEye world record had been achieved on all of them, even February 29th, with one exception, January 23rd.
Damn it!
There was no reason or trend to explain this, as traditionally, January and February have been popular times to play GoldenEye, with some of the greatest world records ever having been achieved in these months. Jimbo conceived a cool idea that on January 23rd that year, all the active Eliters should stream their attempts at getting a record in hopes of being the first to achieve one that day, and dubbed this G-Day. Community members contributed money to a prize pool that would go to the first person to achieve a world record on that day, or whoever achieved the best world record if several were achieved. Q. Ilari Pekala, better known as Ilu. While most Eliters played a few hours for a moderately simple Surface 2 Agent or Streets Agent world record, Ilu had a more difficult challenge in mind. Ilu decided to play Damn Agent in hopes of getting the legendary 52 seconds, which would be an untied world record and beat the mark of 53 seconds set by Brian Bosshart in September 2002. I've talked more about the plausibility of a Damn 52 in another video you can find on my channel, but suffice to say this is a Herculean challenge. This didn't stop Ilu, however, from streaming his Damn Agent 52 attempts for over 17 hours that day. Once word got around that Ilu was going for Damn 52, Eliters started contributing even more money to a Damn 52 specific pot, which eventually reached over $1,000, and was a big factor in Ilu continuing to play for so long. While marathon gaming sessions and 24-hour streams are nothing new, they are extremely challenging and not something that should be done frequently. What makes Ilu's 17-hour marathon session even more remarkable, though, is that he was playing one level, Damn Agent, of one game, Goldeneye. Most 24-hour streams play a variety of games to keep things fresh and interesting, but Ilu played the same 53-second level over and over and over again for 17 hours. To date, this is the longest documented session of Goldeneye in the history of the Elite. Ilu did not achieve Damn 52 that day, and interestingly, no one achieved a world record at all, despite dozens of people trying for one that day, and world records being achieved the day before and after. Another year passed by where no world record was achieved on January 23rd. The reason Ilu's marathon session is not higher on the list, though, is because if Ilu did get the 52, he would have achieved a truly remarkable record, as well as earned money at a rate of over $50 an hour, which would have turned it into a fairly productive day. Marc's dishes. Marc Rutsu is one of the most infamous Eliters. In the wider public eye, because of the famous Ryan Lockwood Streets 112 video, where Lockwood excitedly proclaims he tied Marc Rutsu's legendary record.
Me and Marc Rutsu! Me and fucking Marc Rutsu!
But Marc is well known inside the Elite community for getting some of the most insane world records ever, many of which still stand untied today, and for being probably the most degenerate Eliter of all, as you'll see later on in this video. In fact, I probably could have made a top 5 or even top 50 most degenerate Marc Rutsu moments, but we'll start here.
Mark a striker.
Oftentimes, when an eliter achieves a really good record, they like to make a show of it by creating a cooler, interesting, edited video to share with the community. In this case, Marc had just achieved a truly remarkable Train Secret Agent 123, a record that stood untied for nearly 4 years, and was giving a tour of his apartment in Denmark in the video. It starts fairly normally, with him walking in from the street with some McDonald's, but quickly takes a very degenerate turn.
I haven't done the dishes since Patrick was here. He was here, what was it? Oh yeah, August the 28th. So it's like a bit more than a month. It's kind of gross. But.
Yes, you heard that correctly. Marc states that he has not done his dishes since a fellow eliter, Patrick Nilsson, visited more than a month ago. Marc literally allowed his Train Secret Agent record attempts to engross his life so greatly that he avoided a simple sanitary task, such as doing his dishes, for over a month in order to achieve the record. It makes you wonder what else he did or didn't do, or what basic human functions he might have not given attention to for the month leading up to his Train record. As the video goes on, he shows off his small apartment, including what appears to be a 2003-era Windows XP machine with a large, dated CRT monitor. For reference, the video was filmed in 2012, but Marc's apartment looks like something out of a shock snuff film from the early 2000s. While stunningly degenerate, it does offer a good look into the sometimes barbaric and dark places Goldeneye players have to go in order to achieve great world records. David Clemens achieved Control Agent 358 in April 2009. At the time, a truly great record. It would later be tied by Marc Rutsu and Rayan Isran, better known as Perfect Ace or Ace, in the coming years. But it stood in the beginning of the Twitch era as a shining beacon on the Goldeneye rankings as an example why those 3 players were a step ahead of the rest. Control Agent 357 became somewhat of a white whale for the 3 top players, who all put dozens of hours into going for the record. In fact, many of Marc Rutsu's early Twitch streams in 2012 were long sessions of insane Control Agent 357 attempts, with many runs getting very close, but none ever actually completing. The main reason was because, while 357's speed was attainable by these players, the runs were at the mercy of Natalia's Objective A completing. The strategy back then involved waiting for Natalia's Objective B to complete, an event that takes over 2 minutes and no TASer has ever figured out how to skip, and then finishing the level. After Natalia's last message disappeared, you had at least 17 seconds to destroy the final mainframes, which you couldn't quite reach during the Objective B protection area, and the destruction of these mainframes would complete Objective C. Then you had to exit into the final lift. The thing is, for Objective A to complete, Natalia had to make it back to her despawn point in the fastest possible time, 17 seconds. For world record pace runs, you had to blow up the mainframes and then jump into the lift 17 seconds after her last message in hopes she would get there in time. Any longer than 17 seconds and you probably weren't on 357 pace. But Natalia would often get stuck on guards, doors, or just have unoptimal pathing so that she wouldn't escape on time, thus leaving you with a 357 record pace run, but with a failed Objective A. That all changed in early 2014 when Goldeneye's best TASer, Henrik, was playing around with throwing objects in the game, and discovered that by throwing remote mines a certain way, then turning away to unload walls, you could complete Objective C, blowing the mainframes during or before the Objective B protection phase of the level. This meant the focus could turn to Objective A, no longer having to do a bunch of stuff at the end of the level. A consistent strategy that almost always got Natalia to her despawn point 17 seconds after her last message appeared was soon developed, meaning a once super inconsistent level now became extremely consistent, and the race for 357 was on. Ilu, who I talked about earlier, was the first to tie 358 with this new strategy on February 23rd, 2014, putting an end to the exclusive club with the 358 tie. But after Jimmy Bauer tied it a few days later, and yours truly got it that March 2nd, Perfect Ace became the first to finally get Control Agent 357 only about 5 hours after I achieved my 358 as the world record. But here's where the real degeneracy starts. The consistency increase on the level not only made 357 happen very quickly, but turned 356 from a theoretical pipe dream into a likely reality. 357 already became multi-tied within days, so the top players, namely Ace and Clemens, with Marc a little missing in action from the community at this point, had their sights set on 356. In the wake of the Henning cheating fiasco, which I talked a good deal about in my Frigate Secret Agent lore video, the Elite finally instated a solid proof policy, almost like a charter or constitution, with a full set of rules for what is and isn't acceptable on the world rankings. One thing that was universally accepted in this policy was the fact that an untied world record, or uncommon world record, would require high-quality proof. And by high quality, we meant directly captured 480i video footage with audible audio. This wasn't really new either, as the best records had always required proof since at least 2003 or earlier, or they'd be subject to removal, as had been the case numerous times over Elite history. But it had finally been written down on some sort of official document, if you will. You might be able to see where this is going now. Let me remind you that when 358 was the world record, all of Clemens, Ace, and Marc had played around 100 hours each for 357. You'd think when they finally broke through and achieved this great record they'd been heroically trying for years, they'd have a beautiful video ready to present to the world of their remarkable achievement. Well, 5 days later, when on March 8, 2014, Clemens somehow pulled out a 356, it looked like this. That's right, Clemens had played for dozens of hours that week, and hundreds of hours overall on Control Agent, only to achieve a time that he knew wasn't going to count on the Elite rankings anyways. What's even more ridiculous is that in the months prior to this, he had a working capture card and was using it to stream Goldeneye and Super Metroid in quality that would have been acceptable for the Elite rankings. And after this, he also had a working capture card which he's used since to stream Goldeneye runs. Worth pointing out is that after he got his capture card somewhat functioning again, it took over 2 years of viewers and community members telling him how to fix his interlacing in about 3 simple clicks in OBS for Clemens to actually summon the motivation or to figure out how to do it. The notoriously technologically illiterate Clemens, who, when pressed, claims his computer is a Pentium 2 with 2 GB RAM, had his capture card stop working for a period of a couple months, and he was literally too lazy to troubleshoot it himself or ask for help to set it back up. So out of sheer laziness, he pointed a webcam at his screen as pseudo-proof to capture his Control Agent 356 attempts, knowing it wouldn't count with the newly instated proof policy. Imagine having played a level for an untied world record for over 100 hours, and for about a dozen of those hours, you decide, nah, if I get the untied world record during this time, I don't care to have my record proven and ranked. And yes, this is a guy and a community who usually care about having their achievements ranked. To date, there are 4 people on the rankings with 356 now, and none of them are Clemens, as his video did not meet proof standards. After community outrage at the sheer stupidity and degeneracy of Clemens doing this, he let someone walk him through troubleshooting his capture card, which he continues to use to this day. It was literally that simple, having someone walk him through how to repair it again. But he chose to stream world record attempts that he knew would not count, and for that, he makes this list as one of the most stunning instances of degeneracy in Elite history.
Wow, okay. Another 357? That's like 2 in 30 minutes. What? Oh my god! I got it! I got 356! I got it! Yeah, baby.
License to Kill, or LTK, is a popular multiplayer mode in Goldeneye, in which one shot always kills you or your opponent, unless it's a claw, which only does 60% of the damage of any other weapon. And it's the mode of choice for most Eliters when playing Goldeneye multiplayer. To replicate the feeling of a one-shot, one-kill mode on Goldeneye's 20 levels, settings on the game's unlockable 007 mode were decided, where enemy health is 0%, but all the other settings, enemy accuracy, damage, and reaction time, are maxed out. Every shot an enemy fires will kill you if it isn't impeded by an obstacle or you don't move from their line of fire quickly enough. You can imagine this mode proves quite challenging, as any large group of guards can cause a huge problem. And on levels like Surface 1 or Jungle, you can die randomly from guards seemingly miles away. But there's an even greater challenge, Dark License to Kill or DLTK. In this mode, enemy health is also maxed out, requiring at least 10 headshots to kill any guard, while nearly any shot fired at you by any guard will kill you. Ilu, who I've talked about earlier in this video, was the first person to have completed a level on DLTK mode, joining the Elite in 2004 with the claim he beat Facility. Proving this was possible, a spree began of people trying to become the first to beat each of Goldeneye's levels. When I joined in the summer of 2005, I remember Ilu having just beaten Control and Depot, two of the last holdouts. Most levels had been beaten by this point, but there were still a few stages that hadn't been completed: Streets, Train, and Silo. Over time, Train was eventually beaten in a time of about 50 minutes of careful ammo management and slapping guards 70 to 80 times each until safely through the level. And strategies were developed on Streets to avoid being picked off at very long distances. But Silo was different. The design of Silo on 00 Agent and 007 mode includes a timer counting down from 8 minutes and 30 seconds with no known way of stopping it, after which time the silo blows up in an infinite loop of explosions which will kill you no matter what. When levels similar to Silo in numbers of guards and ammo complications, like Train or Caverns, were being beaten in times approaching 40 minutes, beating the Silo DLTK in under 8 minutes and 30 seconds seemed like a truly impossible challenge, and one that could become the defining moment in Elite history, should it ever be done. Along comes Adam Bozon. Adam Bozon was a British eliter who was never really ranked higher than the mid-20s, but did manage to achieve a few notable world records, including Runway 00 Agent 36, Statue Agent 219, and Cradle 00 Agent 36. A quick glance at his times page will show notably strange and slow Bunker 2 videos, because he claims it's his favorite level, and he doesn't want to spoil it by watching anyone else's PB videos. A bit of a strange guy, to say the least. Bozon's focus, however, was Dark License to Kill, or DLTK. He was hugely innovative on levels like Caverns and Cradle, taking very long world records and inventing strategies where these levels could be beaten in only a few minutes instead. He was able to turn DLTK from more of a completion challenge mode to actually a speedrunning mode, where saving a few seconds here and there with optimal movement and strategies matter. After getting the world records on most of Goldeneye's 19 stages, which had been beaten to that point, Bozon turned his sights to the insurmountable, impregnable Silo DLTK. I really can't overstate the difficulty of this challenge. The level has over 60 guards, all of whom can group up in cluttered hallways and stairwells, all of whom take at least 10 headshots to kill, and when you do kill them, you only get 10 bullets of ammo. Miss a headshot and you're already down a bullet for your next guard, not to mention if they fire at you once, you die. Yeah, there's a reason this was considered the most insane challenge in all of Goldeneye. But of course, because this is the Elite we're talking about, of course Adam Bozon did it. After 330 hours of strategy innovation, guard manipulation, learning how to bait out grenades and explosions to kill multiple guards, and other luck factors coming into place, Adam Bozon had beaten Silo DLTK in under the 8 minutes and 30 seconds before the silo blew up. Okay, it was actually 8 minutes and 31 seconds, because if you cut the cutscenes, you had an extra few seconds before the countdown timer starts. But still, the most impossible stage to beat had finally been beaten. And what proof, you might ask, did we have of this? Oh, that's right, another fucking webcam! You can barely see anything, look at this shit. In the year 2013, Bozon didn't stream attempts of his remarkable feat at all, nor did he use readily available technology to capture the pinnacle of Goldeneye greatness. He pointed a goddamn webcam at his CRT television for 330 hours until he beat the stage. DLTK is considered more of a side league and isn't administered with the same proof requirements as the main rankings page, so Bozon's record is still ranked. But come on! Webcam videos were popular in the Elite early on, once like 2007 or so rolled around and things like capture cards, DVD recorders, and PVRs became either affordable or standard in most homes. The days of old webcam videos were largely gone. Not for Adam Bozon though, as more than half a decade after that, he was still attempting all his PBs by recording them on a goddamn grainy webcam. This should have been the greatest moment in Goldeneye history. A moment to share with the wider speedrun and gaming community as a whole. A moment to rejoice, celebrate, and believe that anything is possible. But no, we got this garbage. All we were asking for was a clean 480i, dude. To make matters worse, finances obviously weren't a problem for Bozon, as after he was widely shamed by the community for producing a titanic feat on something that would have been too poor quality to make E-bombs ruled in 2002, he went out and bought a capture card. Too little too late though, as his moment was forever tarnished by his sheer laziness, ineptitude, and degeneracy to not bother buying equipment to properly record video game footage in the year 2013. I should just say before we get to number 1, if you're willing to spend hundreds of hours to achieve something in a video game, but not even spend 1 hour's worth of time or money to acquire and set up equipment so that you can capture and present your gaming achievement to the world, then you are truly a degenerate being. It'd be like painting the Mona Lisa and displaying it crookedly in the corner of a dimly lit room. Or if Michael Jackson recorded Thriller in 30 kbps over a sketchy digital Skype connection. If you're spending tons of time on a gaming feat, it's presumably something you'll take pride in getting, and should take pride in sharing with others. Thank you. And thanks to Brian Bosshart, who in March of 2016 became the second person to beat Silo DLTK, this time actually using a proper capture device. He even beat Bozon's time, completing the level in 8 minutes and 16 seconds. That's the video I showed for a lot of this segment because, I mean, I can't stand to look at Bozon's defecation of a video for more than like 15 seconds at a time. So thanks, boss, for giving us a Silo DLTK completion in good quality so that we will never have to watch this steaming pile of turd again. Okay. Think about the most degenerate thing you can possibly imagine after these previous stories. Now imagine worse. And worse. And worse. You're probably thinking of someone pissing in jugs and sitting in their shit-filled pants, refusing to leave the TV for hours on end while attempting a record. And while this number 1 isn't quite that vile in that way, although there have been some stories of leaders forcibly holding in their shit to play Deep Sea for 4 hours straight, we're about to go on a wild ride that you, nor anyone around you, could ever possibly expect. Let's go. Luke Scalars joined the Elite around the same time as me in 2005. He was always a decent player, one of those guys who was ranked around 50th, gets a few good world records, but never really fulfills his entire times page to that world-class potential. After about 3 or 4 years with the Elite, he took a pretty long break, like many have, but returned at the beginning of the Twitch era in late 2012. Upon his return, he was a changed man, playing with a new fire. By June 2013, he made the top 10 and showed no signs of slowing down. This didn't go without notice, as any player entering Goldeneye's top 10 is extremely rare. 7 of the current players ranked in the top 10 have been there since 2006 or earlier. While it's fairly common for there to be chirping and banter taking place on the forums, like competitive men do in good fun and competition across gaming, sports, or whatever it may be, one certain leader was sitting back, thinking, plotting, how he could really get to Luke for threatening his position inside the top 10. Marc was actually the Goldeneye streamer who, alongside myself, showed the most promise early on. Marc and I were streaming 100% runs, which we knew would be palatable to the wider community in late 2012, and sometimes getting over 100 viewers. which for new streamers playing an unproven game was pretty good at the time. While I went on to consistently get in the hundreds of viewers, ultimately getting partnered and running Goldeneye at HQ 2014, Marc Rutsu went a completely different direction.
Evolution is no longer just a theory. It has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. The problem is, even people who believe evolution is true disassociate themselves from the process. They somehow skipped all the lower forms of animal life and started at the top of the evolutionary ladder. Human beings did not just appear at the top of the evolutionary ladder to reap the benefits of those millions of years of evolution without having to live through it. You had to be lower animals to be a human now. You lived as all the different animals in your evolutionary line. You lived through millions of years and millions of lives and deaths to get to where you are now. That's what Darwin's book means.
If you're wondering what the hell that just was, look no further than truthcontest.com. This is some sort of strange, culty blog post website that preaches a complete understanding of the truth and the universe. This site became the obsession of Marc Rutsu around the time he stopped streaming on Twitch in late 2012 or early 2013. Marc's first attempt at indoctrinating the elite community with this nonsense was a thread called What is the Ultimate Truth?, which I'll link in the description. Marc started off being just mildly condescending towards everyone who showed skepticism towards his claims of biblical-like knowledge coming from a website that looks like it was ported over from Geocities in 2001. But over time, Marc became completely vitriolic and hateful towards every other eliter. I'll link some more threads in the description. Over time, as Luke continued to climb through the top 10 and became the first person to clearly threaten the established top 3 of Ace, Clemens, and Marc, Luke noticed that most of his YouTube videos were getting at least 1 thumbs down. This was a little weird because generally Goldeneye PB videos only have a few dozen views and only the community will watch them, and there's really no reason anyone would give them a thumbs down, but Luke started noticing a trend. Meanwhile, Marc would return to the Elite every 6 to 12 months or so, post a few PBs or world records, and then start to flame and spew abuse at everyone in the community like a complete madman. During one such tirade in September 2015, Luke confronted Marc with the suspicion he had that Marc was the one downvoting all his PB videos. Marc responded with, and I quote, "Hi Luke, you are weak and rely on your false friends for support. Also, caring about downvotes, upvotes shows the weak person you are. I see all the signs because I'm aware. Pretty much everything you said was wrong. You have emotional problems and haven't developed a rational mind yet. Much like Carl, Kara, Goose, etc., you let your irrational emotions lead you. And this is why you have miserable lives. I let the truth lead me. You attach your emotions to everything. I don't. The thing is, I know the truth. You don't. I am objective. You are subjective. I have control over myself. You don't. I left you guys and your miserable lives behind in the dust a long time ago. A lot of you guys are starting to get older for real now, heading to middle age, becoming boring adults, getting further and further away from when you were a child, where you were full of life, more aware, when time went much slower, when you didn't have many preconceptions about life and didn't judge one moment over another. You were much more aware of your 5 life senses, more aware of life, until your awareness were slowly pulled towards your mind, became less aware of life, and started to pull really fast when you became a teenager, until your mind is infected to the point where it is too late to change, and you are heading for old age and death without a clue. Ingrained in the mind of society, living in a mind that reacts to everything, instead of letting you respond to everything, too comfortable with your misery to change, so closed off to life that you're in denial to even your own misery. A lot of you guys only have a few years left to change before it's too late. It is already too late for some of you guys. It is all funny to me because it is your own fault. Not your fault that your mind is merely a product of your past environments, but your fault for not fixing it. So be courageous and face the truth about yourself. so you can break free from the misery of the prison of your mind, just like I did. God, I'm so glad I don't have to live like that anymore, and took the steps I needed to take. What a horrible way to live. It's all worth it, so do it, you dumb motherfuckers. LOL. You might think that this sort of diatribe would maybe have some sort of impact, coming from someone who had left a gaming community to spend their time productively doing great things with their life, criticizing a community of lowlifes. However, I should point out that Luke, the main target of Marc's post here, is an accredited architect at a firm in Australia and has formal education from one of Australia's finest universities in the field. Luke literally passed Marc Rutsu on the Goldeneye rankings while working at a full-time job at an architecture firm. Meanwhile, from what we can gather, Marc still spends his time, like in the apartment tour video from earlier, sitting around his apartment paid for by the government of Denmark, not doing the dishes, but instead playing video games, reading, and posting about the truth contest religiously on the internet. And yes, I've seen comments by Marc on some of the strangest videos on YouTube preaching the truth about life like some kind of cyber missionary. In fact, Marc will sometimes post about the truth contest on random videos using aliases and people's names from the Goldeneye World Rankings. The guy's all sorts of fucked up. This all being said, we never knew exactly what Marc did with his so-called enlightened life, but on February 12th, 2016, Luke found out. Luke posted a thread to the Elite Forum, screenshots from his YouTube analytics. Again, Luke's channel is an unrefined place he uploads Goldeneye PBs to, and that's pretty much it. He has 100 subscribers, so obviously he noticed when his videos received over 360 dislikes in a single day. A closer look into his analytics showed that nearly every single one of those dislikes came from Denmark, the home country of Marc Rutsu. Yes, that's correct. Marc Rutsu made alt accounts so he could spend the day disliking Luke's videos 365 times on February 8th, 2016. Talk about an enlightened life. And that, my friends, is the most degenerate act we have ever seen at the Elite community. After Luke's thread completely irrefutably exposed Marc responded with a 3,100 word tirade about absolute nonsense, even more insane than the previous one I read here. I'm not going to read it, but I'll link to that thread as well for your own reading pleasure. Marc occasionally still shows up to the Elite Forum every now and then, spews more of this literal insanity, and we never know when he'll show back up. But it's clear he still has no job, no education, and lives off the government of Denmark's dime, and has no desire to do anything aside from preaching the ultimate truth on obscure message boards on the internet and dislike Luke's YouTube videos 365 times in a single day. The ultimate degenerate, the most degenerate act in Elite history, the most stunning instance of degeneracy, Marc fucking Rutsu. So there you have it, some of the most stunning instances of degeneracy in Elite history. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I plan on making a ton of more content like this, top 5s of the Elite community and speedrunning, strategy explanations, PB and world record videos, and of course my 10-episode Goldeneye lore series, with the next one coming hopefully sometime next week. So subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Twitch for more of this kind of thing. If you have any questions about the stories presented in this video, ask them in the comments and I usually get around to responding to the good ones. In the meantime, stay true, God bless, and I'll see you in the next stream or video.